Good morning to one and all present here. I extend a warm welcome to all on the occasion of book launch by Center for Education, Innovation and Research, Navrachna University. I, Ananya Rawat, student of BA Journalism and Mass Communication, will be the host. I request Dr. Nilay Ajnik, Provost, Navrachna University, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Ananya. Good morning to everyone. And today we are very, very pleased to welcome Professor Sitanshu Bhai Yashash Chandra, a very, very well-known authority in the field of academics, education. He's an author, he's a poet, he's a dramatist, and also a thinker who provides several ideas in the field of education and overall human aspects of life. We are also very pleased to have Mrs. Aarti Samajpati with us. Welcome, madam. She's the author of the book which we are launching today. Navrachna University launched the Center for Education, Innovation and Research in 2019. The reason why we did this is because what we thought that as a society, Navrachna Education Society, we have more than 50 years of experience in education, school education and university education as well, plus education for women, education for the underprivileged, and multiple areas of education. So it's an institution, it's an organization which is so rich in its experience of education. So what we thought is that it's high time that we set up a center for education, innovation, and research. And the idea of this center was basically to provide thought leadership to education, to the society as a whole. And this will cover school education, this covers higher education, this covers aspects like technology-based education, rural education, and all forms of education. That is what the focus is. So we decided that this center would conduct research, would develop training programs, faculty development programs, would publish, would organize seminars and conferences, and provide a forum and a platform to deliberate on ideas of education for today and for tomorrow. That is what the focus of this center is. And I'm so pleased today that under the leadership of Dr. Vandana and the entire team of the Center for Education, Innovation and Research of Navrachna University, we have come out with 2 publications today. And what a lovely day today, 7th of May, which is the birth anniversary of the great Rabindranath Tagore. So we are going to release 2 books today. The first is a compilation of talks in the very first Idea Fest held in 2019 under the center, which is known as Vichar Vimarsh. So that is the book, that is number 1. The second book is a transcreation of the poems of Tagore. It's called Songs of Life by Mrs. Aarti Samajpati. So we are very, very honored today to have both Professor Sitanshu Yashash Chandra, who is the chief guest for today's function, and also the author, Mrs. Aarti Samajpati. There are several other authors who have participated in this Vichar Vimarsh in 2019, and I can see many of them, many of our own faculty colleagues are also present over here. So congratulations once again to Dr. Vandana, to Dr. Javed, to Dr. Meghna Vyas, who helped us get the ISBN numbers for both these books, to Professor Pulak of the School of Environment, Design and Architecture of Navrachna University for the beautiful artistic cover designs. And thanks and congratulations to the entire team of the Center for Education, Innovation and Research. So welcome all, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would again like to invite Dr. Nilay Ajnik to release the 2 books. I'm
very pleased today to launch 2 books under the very first two publications of the Navratna University Center for Education, Innovation and Research. Number one, Vichar Vimarsh, a compilation of book talks. And the second is Songs of Life, a transcreation of the poems of Tagore. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Dr. Vandana Talegaonkar, Head, Center for Education, Innovation and Research, to speak about the book Vichar Vimarsh.
Thank you, Ananya. It is my pleasure to speak about the book Vichar Vimarsh, an exchange of ideas, publication by Navratna University Center for Education, Innovation and Research. This book, a compilation of talks, has been driven by a collective of vision, thoughts, and endeavor of many. A vision that, as has already been explained by Dr. Neelay Yagnik, Provost, that this center organized a festival of ideas, an idea fest was given, and later the thought that the celebration of ideas be compiled in the form of a book sowed the seed of this book. The encouraging response of the eminent speakers as they espoused this idea and agreed to share the manuscripts of their talk in spite of their several academic engagements paved the way further. An infant center stands to gain by it. This book brings together contribution from eminent scholars as well as faculty and students of Navratna University. It has 4 articles authored by Professor Sitanshu Yashish Chandra, Professor Sachin Ketkar, Dr. Vishal Bhadani, and Amrit Deshmukh. There are 2 interviews, interview of Dr. Seema Khanwalkar and of Neha Bhaktana. And in the next section, there are reflections on 8 different books given by faculty, Dr. Archana Koma, Professor Neha Sarvate, Dr. Rahul Parikh, and Professor Nati Parikh. And the 4 students who have given their reflections are Devanshu Chattopadhyay, Nainil Patel, Pratibha Talwar, and Keaton Lennox. Now, when this book was getting the shape of a book, the idea to weave these articles together was founded on the idea of conversations. So it is stated in the introduction, conversations facilitate the evolution of individuals, communities, and society. Conversations can occur and thrive as individuals engage with others and their varied forms of expression. At an elementary level, conversations can occur around ideas expressed in books, shared through stories, and reaching to unfamiliar cultural contexts through translation. This is a possibility among many other possibilities. Further, how the various social media platforms are influencing storytelling and the idea of translation, making the text accessible to more number of readers, is elaborated. Now I move to some of the excerpts from the book, though I would like to read all excerpts from all the articles. I would read from few in interest of time. So we have an article by Professor Sachin Ketkar, who writes about the creative process. The title of the article is From an Abridged Travelogue of a Tortoise, My Journey as a Poet and a Translator, and the poet as the translator and the translator as a poet. The excerpt. The creative process for me begins with a poetic idea, a germ in the form of a phrase, an image, And if it strikes me as remarkable, I follow and explore the symbolic potential and a range of associations and connections that churn opens up. I have often used myths, both ancient, like stories of Jarasandha, Ravan, or Ghatak, as well as modern ones like the superhero myths, animation, cartoons like popular contemporary narratives, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, or Tom and Jerry, as masks to comment on my personal life, through which I explore what it means to be a human today. I was interested in Ravan as a myth, mask, and metaphor, a 10-headed Rakshas who would look at life from 10 diverse ways, someone who would grapple with the complexity and multidimensionality of our culture and society today more successfully than the single-headed Ram, who supposedly would only follow the idealistic notions of life. Ravan would know that the good and the evil, the right and the wrong, are not simple oppositions and life is far more complex and plural than the naive devotees of Ram would admit. My Ravan outrageously demands using a language with 10 grammatical numbers and whose logic is based on a 10-step syllogism. Now I will take an excerpt from an interview on meaning making. The interview was of Dr. Sima Kandulkar, and she's with us today. Thank you, Dr. Sima. She was asked this question: how do you identify yourself as a semiotician, a linguist, or a social scientist? And the answer is, I identify myself as a social scientist, as my academic interests range from semiotics, anthropology, sociology, literature, psychoanalysis, amongst other subjects. Conversation among disciplines. The next article that I choose is by Dr. Vishal Adani, and it is titled "In Looking at Translation from Creative Perspective." Thanks. As a translator of the novels of Guru Bhatt, I have experimented with use of sketches to translate meanings of some of the culturally rooted terms. Of course, the standard practice is enlisting such terms in the glossary and provide a little elaborative meaning. Here are some examples from Timirpanthi, The Pilgrims of Darkness. Ganeshi, a tool to put a cut in the wall to make a step to enter the house. After this, the sketch of Ganesha is also presented. Again, an excerpt from an interview of Neha Bahuguna. She's a storyteller of the current times, the current age group. She was asked what is the trigger for her stories, and she explains. I think being a girl is a trigger enough to write stories. But jokes apart, I get inspired by day-to-day activities, usual discrimination towards women or other minorities and stigmas. I love doing research also. Sometimes I want to know why and how a certain word has emerged in our vocabulary, and I dig deep to get an answer. Another thing about writing is in Hindi is my love for the language. My Nani is a great speaker, and she throws proverbs on every second line. I think I got it from her to use all the beautiful things like metaphor and proverbs in my stories. Oh yes, and my Nani is not literate. She is a farmer. So it does not matter how many books you have read to be able to tell beautiful stories. Now the next excerpt. This is from the article by Amrit Desh, who is on a mission to make India read, also popularly known as the booklet guy. He explains reading as fundamental to solving problems. And he states, I remember the words of my brother who said, whenever you're stuck up with the question, what next? Read and after this, I will move to reading of excerpts from the reflections on books given. So first reflection is by a student, Nainil Patel, an engineering student, who chose to reflect on the book Animal Farm. And he has described it in a very interesting way. He says, as a human, we can only observe the transformation of the world from one dispute to the other dispute. That is, day by day, day by day. As a child, we always wanted to live in a fairy tale that we read. But as we gained maturity, we grew out of those desires. But Animal Farm, whose subtitle is A Fairy Tale, fulfilled our childish wish to live in a fairy tale. So let us enjoy living in this fairy tale and the spectacle in our surroundings. Day by day, day by day. Another reflection by a faculty on Metamorphosis by Kafka. The faculty is Dr. Archana Kaur. She reflects. This book depicts multiple alienation of Gregor from his work, from society, from his neighbors, from his family, and finally from his human form. His isolation and distrust is depicted in his habit of locking doors and windows of his own also. Living a life on terms and conditions of life is a chained life. You're not the controller of the events and circumstances of your life. Still, you're answerable to whatever happens around you. These are few glimpses from the book that I have presented to introduce the book. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now call upon Srimati Aarti Samajpati, who is a lifelong learner of literature and the author of Songs of Life, Poems of Tagore Transcreated, to speak about the book.
Thank you. Namaskar. My greetings to all of you. It is my privilege and honor to be in this august group of academicians, literateurs, and friends. It is a very special day today. We all know this is Tagore's birthday. And for me, because I have written a book which is being launched and going to be published and being released by the Navrachana University. Though due to the current scenario, it is going to be a symbolic release today, but the occasion is more significant because 7th May 2021 is the 188th birth anniversary of Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore. And here I'll just I'll just sing 2 lines of Tagore songs, which is, I think it will be easily understood by people because mostly it is Sanskrit based, just 2 lines. Anandoloke Mongolaloke Birajo Shotto Sundaro. So this is my tribute to Tagore on his birthday. Now the question is what is the connection between Tagore and my book? I have titled the book Songs of Life. We all know Tagore was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature for his song poem collection, Gitanjali. Gitanjali has 103 poems, collection. They are all songs also, and they are also poem. I have just selected 32 special poems, which are very popular in Bengal and all over. And I have translated them from the original Bengali to English. And then I have also presented them in poem form, which I think I have not read anywhere. There are many translations, many time over it is done of Gitanjali.
So just, this, as I was stating, that poems in Gitanjali are originated from Tagore's own realization of God, his deep sense of mysticism and philosophy and spiritualism. I'm quoting the poet W.B. Yeats when he read Tagore for the first time. Then he said, "At times I wonder if he, that means Tagore, has it from literature of Bengal or religion." It was, the depth was such in his work, such intriguing, such unfathomable. In fact, I have tried to simplify the mysticism and philosophy of those select poems so that interested readers could apprehend and enjoy them more. Tagore has left such a vast, priceless treasure for the posterity. If this work of mine could reach the interested readers, including youth of the day, I will be immensely gratified. Now, we cannot, this where we live and the age we live, we cannot, ignore that situation. I'd like to mention here about the current COVID scenario. I believe that Tagore's poems are more relevant now than ever before. Good poems always touches our hearts, bringing a sublime joy. Reading these poems and absorbing the messages, a troubled heart could get solace and sanity in this challenging time. I'm just reading one poem which I have transcreated rather, which is the poem number 23, which in Bengali says, "Ache dukho, ache mrityu, biroho dahono lage, tobuo shanti, tobu ananto, tobu anando jage." So I'm just reading my poem. Yes, there is sorrow. Yes, there is death. Yes, the separation hurts. The pain sharp, piercing. Yet life stops not at that. Peace and joy exist. The sun, the moon, the stars shine as always. Spring comes, brings along hopes with all its splendor, the fragrance, the vibrant colors. As a wave rises, before one recedes, flowers keep blossoming, afford season one perish. Life keep flowing, no ending, no decay. Full circle it takes, as does a night and a day. So this is what, before before I end, it is time to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to each one of you. Everyone who contributed to this development of this book. The content was reviewed by a noted author. His suggestion was invaluable, sorry. Now, as we look at the cover page, we see this beautiful original piece. This artwork was created by Pulak Senpui, Sri Pulak Senpui. This was such an original one. This it was very impressive one. We all were very much impressed by that. And I thank him and appreciate him from the bottom of my heart. Dr. Vandana Talegaonkar, I think I have pronounced properly, Vandana?
Yes.
Thanks are not enough for you. You not only coordinated the project, You are always available, always guided me as a friend, as a mentor. Dr. Javed Khatri, Nisha Parikh, they all contributed significantly to make the book more appealing. Dr. Nilay Yagnik, being the margdarshak of this project, you have showed unrestricted interest in the development of this book. You said you launched the book on 7th of May and you made the date. And are launching the product, my book, today. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Professor Sitanshu Yashchandra, I'm privileged as such an eminent academician and literature as you have agreed to be the chief guest on this special occasion. Your body of work is enormous. But the one word that comes to my mind first is the famous movie Maya Mem Saab. I thank you for gracing this event. There are many friends, especially Mr. Sudhir Mankar deserves more than my thanks. My family, including my husband, encouraged me to pursue my passion, which I started as a hobby, talking about Tagore with my friends. That became a passion, and I was supported by my family. My daughter Nilakshi, my son Anindo, my daughter-in-law Jyoti, grandson Amrit are the reasons that this book has seen the day of the light. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Ma'am, we are privileged to have with us Professor Sitanshu Yashchandra as the chief guest for today's event. He is a poet, dramatist, and a literary theorist. Professor Sitanshu Yashchandra is a recipient of Sahitya Academy Award for his poetry collection Jatayu in 1987. He was also conferred with Padma Shri in 2006. He has received the Saraswati Samman Award in 2017 for his poetry collection Vakhar. The award citation reads, Vakhar is the pinnacle of his poetic journey, where he crosses the boundaries of the real world and establishes high standards of liberty in language and creativity by evolving a balance in the contradicting elements of human emotions and thoughts. He mainly writes in Gujarati, but his works are translated into Hindi and other languages. He has also translated some works of poetry, drama, and criticism from English to Gujarati. Many of his plays have been performed and published. His works also include those of theory of literature and literary historiography. He has also written a screenplay of the 1993 Hindi film Maya Mem Saab, which was based on Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary. It will be an honor to listen to your address today. May I request you, sir, to address the invited guests and the attendees.
Many thanks. Dr. Nilay Yagnik, Vice Chancellor of the University. Professor Vandana Talegaonkar, who looks after this entire project, along with Professor Javed Khatri, Arati Ji Samajapati, and other friends. I have always liked and enjoyed and found fruitful to come to your university. And today is a special occasion. The event is, of course, primarily launch of 2 books, which are Vimarsh 2019, an exchange of ideas, edited so well by Professor Vandana Talegaonkar and Professor Javed Khatri, so carefully and over a long span of time. And the book Songs of Life by Arati Savajapati, coming from her lifelong love for Tagore's poetry. The two books lead us somewhere not only into a future but also into a past. Of course, it is Janma Jayanti of Rabindranath Tagore, but that itself leads us to Shantiniketan and Vishnu Bharati. So what is really the occasion today? It starts with these two books, but it extends farther forward and backward. One step back is the event of founding of the Center for Education, Innovation and Research by the Provost Dr. Nila Yagnik. I think that itself is a landmark event. It gels together, it focuses a wide range of activities of Navrachna University. The Center for Education, Innovation and Research. Each word has been selected carefully and thoughtfully. And I think that center is also, in a sense, inaugurated, not in all its departments, other departments have been doing one, but in its activity of book publication. These are its first two books. The center itself and the university itself originates in Navarachana Education Society. One remembers Nanubai Amin. Long time back, several decades back, on the campus of MS University of Baroda, Nanubai Amin and Tejal Amin and the family, they had an exhibition on solar power. Nobody knew at that time what solar power was. So that is kind of imagining the future, the needs of the future and the pathways to fulfill those needs. So Navarachana Education Society, as the Provost rightly said, 50th year, has many objectives in education. School. So universities are there, but schools are not there. So Sayajirao University also has an experimental school, and then faculty of education, and then other faculties. The school is very important. And higher education. And then the Navarachana Education Society adds that it also focuses on rural and underdeveloped segments of our society. It also says technology. A few things that have not been actually recorded, but have been proven by action, are its focuses on social sciences, humanities, literatures, and arts. I think universities today, especially those universities which are now profit-making industries, don't touch upon social sciences, less on humanities, hardly ever on literature and the other arts. So, the Provost, Professor Vandana ji, Professor Javed, all colleagues, who are focusing so well on literatures and other arts, humanities, social sciences, rural and underdeveloped segments of a society, and schools. So with this kind of background, the semiotic context, if you look at the event today, it goes far beyond book promotion. So inauguration of books, lokarpan, and so on, where someone who tears upon the cover page looks at those two books for the first time and probably the last. So those rituals of our times and the shameless book promotion activity. I think the publication department, future publication department of Navarachana University, under the dynamic provost, should look into all this. So what is a university's publication program? That is the main point today, because that is being launched. Publication program of Navarachana University. Publication program of the Center for Education, Innovation and Research. If you focus on those issues, then today is a historical day. If you focus on book promotion, it's a tragic day. Books are not to be promoted. They are not objects for sale and increase of sale and publicity for the author. These are counterproductive. So what is a university publication program? So 4 questions have to be asked by the program director, Dr. Vandana ji, by the dynamic and brilliant vice chancellor. 4 issues before you. What are the objectives of your publication program? Second, what is its organizational setup? Third, if the objectives are clear and if the organizational setup is set rightly, then what is its modus operandi? And fourth, what are the outlets of those books? If we look at these 4 issues briefly, I think for the first, the objectives, the provost and the director might like to plan a conclave or a sambhasha to figure out the objectives. But nobody dictates those objectives, certainly not your chief guest. Let there be a sambhasha, a conclave. Ikhubai Parekh could come. He comes so often to Vadodara. Teja Levine could join. Dr. Nilay Yagnik and Dr. Talegaonkar and Dr. Javed. You could form a group which organizes this conclave or sambhasha. Let's figure out slowly how to go beyond book launches and book publicities. So what could an organizational setup be? And this is most important. I've been a vice chancellor. I've been a member and I have worked with Sahitya Academy Delhi as its chief editor. So I know. So the only way to really produce books which are worthwhile for the whole society of today, Gujarati society to start with, an Indian society, and hopefully later on for a larger human society. So there has to be a steering committee with eminent nationally and internationally renowned scholars from various areas. This would deflect the work of choosing books from the university authority to an authority set up by the university. This would help you withstand several pressures by several pressure groups and lobbies. Believe me, all sorts of lobbies, all sorts of pressure groups are there once they know that funding is available for publication of their books. Look at Princeton University's publication program. It has these facilities, these deflections. So the modus operandi is then each book is discussed carefully by a smaller group of experts in that given field, be it science or technology or commerce or business management or literature or arts, and then a larger final selection group, a steering committee, would approve, and then the university follows. And then the outlets. I think university books often end up on university shelves. And so how not to sell books, but how to reach books to the reader. That brings me to two books which are being initiated today. I will start with RTG's book, Songs of Life, Poems of Tagore, Transcreative. This book comes from a lifelong love affair that Samajapati-ji has with Tagore's song poems, as she calls it, and we welcome it. I would caution her against the word transcreative. I need not caution her, she knows jolly well that she has discussed, in fact, in her preface. And she says that I know that Tagore has been translated by himself and by several others in several languages. And yet I do it because, and in her words, to simplify the mysticism, the philosophy of the original. RPG, please give some thought. Do we need to simplify Tagore? What is simplifying Tagore? Tagore is not such a difficult poet. He writes in simple, excellent English and even much better Bengali. Secondly, what is simplifying mysticism and philosophy? And mysticism and philosophy is to be simplified. Please give some thought to two words, transcreation. Though you do not mean it at all, is it an affront to the poet? The great creative mind needs to be transcreated. Can we transcreate him without degrading him? And secondly, can we simplify mysticism? Does it help mysticism to be simplified? Does it help philosophy to be simplified? So these are the issues. I would suggest that if RPG doesn't know Gujarati yet, she is in Gujarat, why not pick up Gujarati? And then present a book which analyzes with a keen intellect that is evident in this book. Let her analyze Tagore's translations into Gujarati. This will help her grow and help both Gujarati and Bengali literatures also in a small way. To conclude, my presentation on this book, let me introduce two terms, heuristic and hermeneutic. Heuristic reading of a book is simply descriptive. You describe that book. But what is hermeneutic? Hermeneutic reading is interpretation. I think what she means by the word transcreation is hermeneutic reading, but it is done differently. And some good professor in Ahmedabad, Niranjan Bhai, of course, is gone, unfortunately, Niranjan Bhagat. Hopefully you knew him when he was alive. But there are others. So, hermeneutic reading of Tagore and Tagore's translations and books on Tagore in Gujarat. There is an excellent center, it's called Rabindra Bhavan in Gujarati Sahitya Parishad, and friends, excellent friends of Niranjan Bhai Bhagat, those who know Bengali like their mother tongue, Gujarati thinkers, they run this. So please get in touch with it. Vichar Vimarsh 2019, an exchange of ideas. My hearty congratulations to both the editors, Vandana Talegaokarji and Javed Khatri. It is a result of a long process of preparation. And Professor Vandana ji has very nicely summed up each chapter by giving excerpts from each chapter. I thought of doing that myself, but now Vandana ji has done it, so I will not repeat it. But let me give a few things. So Professor Talegaonkar and Professor Khatri, I quote them, what is this book? From where has this come up? She says, or they say, it comes up from conversations. I really like that word. Conversations. Vada. Vivada. What is conversation? Vada. To speak, to converse, to speak to each other. They add conversations. What do they do? Conversations facilitate. Another excellent word. Not simplification, but to facilitate. It's an entirely different thing. To facilitate. Conversations facilitate. What do they facilitate? Two editors say, evolution. So 3 words, conversations facilitate evolution. Yes, evolution is a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. It is not a sales pitch. It's a worthy activity of a university. Evolution. Conversations facilitate evolution of individuals, communities, and society. For this single sentence, I would really congratulate Vandana ji and Jami. This is exactly what should be done by this book production project, publication project. This conversation amongst us to facilitate evolution of individuals. Don't forget individuals. In communities, don't stop at individuals. Go to communities. Don't stop at communities. That is what is going to happen today. India and its whole neighborhood of South Asia, they have already stopped. That's why India is stopping. We should see to it, the great university. We should see to it, the whole of South Asia is impacted. And they stop this community. Community is grinding to a halt. Far East, Middle East, South Asia, everywhere. So individuals, communities, and society. That's how society is built. What the society is very difficult to build, very difficult to maintain. Michel Foucault has given a series of lectures. Society must be defended. So these conversations, the editors say, are around books. And what is the book? They quote from a scholar. There are different kinds of reading of words on page, reading of stars in the sky, reading of lines on a map, and so on. So all this has to be done. Sachin, such a darling poet, and is growing into a link between Gujarat and Maharashtra. So he has taken first steps. Some of them look like baby steps. Some of them are more mature. I hope that Sachin goes a long way. We started with Narsi Mehta. There's much more to Narsi and to Gujarati literature. He refers to some of us, but there are others also, Lavshankar Thakur. And so Sachin could grow into a major link. If some hobby horses are, see, we all have our wooden horses on which we like to rock. We must get off those and mount real horses which gallop across space. Javed, of course, it is deep understanding of critical theory, could go into critical theories of Gujarat from Anand Shankar Dhruv to Balwant Rai Thakur to Mashankar Joshi and others, but also go into critical theories in India. In Sanskrit of the Jain, Sanskrit of the Dala Shiko. Sanskrit is not Sanskrit only of the Brahmins. It is Sanskrit of Jain, of Buddhists. So technology, Sanskrit of technology. I think if Javed spends some time in Sanskrit, which is deep understanding of critical theory. Vishal on translation. I remember my esteemed colleague at Saurashtra University and a dear friend, Vice Chancellor himself, Provost of the university, passed away, Avdesh Bhai, and his work on translation. Vishal should look closely at translation activities in Gujarat. We are Gujarat-based university. And Amrit Deshmukh, Archana Tomar, Nalini Patel, Devanshu, Pratibha, Rahul, Keaton. So not much time today, but I hope that we'll be able to have a self-audit of this important book. There are many points which need to be looked into and corrected. There are many points which need to be celebrated so that the editors and the authors find occasions to work harder through our celebration. And we should also engage Aratiji, get much work out of her. Sometimes it is not very pleasant to get the best out of a colleague. But if one really feels that one is a comrade, a friend, a well-wisher, and one must point out the stumbling blocks, and one must point out to the pathways through which our colleague could run her own marathon. So once again, I'm very grateful to you. I look forward to much longer work on the center that Nilaji has set up, Center for Education, Innovation and Research, and this book production program that Vandanaji and with Javed's help and with help of others. I wish you well. Do call upon me whenever I could be of any use. I always enjoy being with this university, which is a dream of a good family and which is reality of an able vice chancellor and professors. Be independent, never succumb to the commercial forces which are raging like COVID in the academic world of Gujarat and India. Wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an enlightening and enriching experience to listen to you. I am sure the attendees would like to interact with you and may have some questions. I request the attendees to post the questions in the chat.
Are there any questions in YouTube? Can you check?
I don't see any questions.
No,
If there are
I'll
any,
check.
kindly relay.
Yeah.
I think Dinesh,
Not very good at technology.
Dinesh, I think it'll be difficult to type. People at least watching on Zoom, if they wish to unmute and ask a question.
Sure, I allowed that. So all participants, you can unmute yourself if you want and ask a question to the speaker.
Parallelly, somebody can look at YouTube.
Yeah. There are comments on YouTube. There are no questions as such. So meanwhile, anybody else asks, I will try, especially for Sitanshu sir. Actually, what you've spoken is something that are concerns as well, and that is why we have you as the chief guest right now. That we have the proper guidance. So, sir, in terms
Brilliant
of
team. It's a brilliant team.
and yes, guided by people like you. So yes. So what my concern is like today more and more students are going into technology and management. Okay, there are very few handful of students who turn towards humanities or literature. So what kind of publications we can bring in so that we can attract more students towards literature and humanities? Apart from publications, what kind of other programs that we can plan so that we can develop a kind of humanitarian approach even within technology or management? Your suggestions, sir.
Absolutely, Javed, absolutely. I'm with you. You have already answered, but I'm with. Let me articulate your own answer as I guess it. We must go in for ebooks. We must go in for electronic media because young people are now. See what what book was for the 19th century as it transited from 18th century, oral tradition basically, or person-to-person presentation, or great manuscript tradition for the elite and for the rich. So, and for the people, the oral tradition. So the transition from that to the book was there. And now there is another transition from the book in print to books, e-books, audiobooks, and so on. The problem there, Javed, is absence of critical evaluation. There are no editors. There is always like, tick, tick, tick. And this book promotion. And this has entered in a big, big way. Those who have nothing to take from the book except money, royalty, and big royalty, and all the awards, the whole gang has ganged up. And they have, pushed us in the margin. We are not even in the margin. We are out of the page. So, Vandanaji, we must fight back for our space. And we could do that through judicious use of critically employed electronic space. Critically employed electronic space. We must initiate conversations, as you rightly used that word, conversations which are two-way and critically guided. And we have these two words, Vivada and Vitanda. So Vivada is there, but Vitanda is not, should not be there. And now it is not even Vitanda. It is Parasparam Prashansyanti. They praise each other. Aho Rupam, Aho Dhvani. So this Aho Rupam, Aho Dhvani is there. in short, Javed and Vandanaji, with this great provost that you have and a great university with a very good family. So why not now plan as you have done so meticulously, painstakingly, taking your time? Why not plan a series of ebooks and audiobooks and a series of conversations like self-audit on those ebooks and audiobooks. People travel in America by car long distances, in India also now increasingly. So they listen to audiobooks while they travel. And they like to look at ebooks because there's you and I love to hold book in our hand, love it. But if youngsters don't, we should not blame them. Javed sort of initiates you into an answer. Javed?
Yes, sir, definitely. And in fact, we are taking up similar steps under Center for Education Innovation Research. We are planning a small podcast related with education and innovation in education. And we are also starting blog post under Center that will be short write-ups. So it will be online available and people can hear it. So this is something in pipeline and it will be soon available. So hopefully we will
Javed and Vandanaji, you must enroll me as one of your students in this podcast. Students from IIT Kharagpur, for some reason, they have been after me. They must have read some translations of my poems, and I'm not very good at pushing translations or pushing anything. But they, for some reason, they have been really quite aggressively after me, saying that you must come up, and we have decided, we have had many discussions on you, and you must come on podcast. Unfortunately, I'm so ignorant on this. I don't know what is podcast. I don't know how to tell them. So you must enroll me on this, Nilayji, and have me as your student on what is podcast and how to deal with students from Kharagpur IIT on their aggressive questioning.
Sir,
And this lightheartedness that we see on each other's face is also very important. Our universities have become so straight-jacketed. They are after money, and it's a terrible place. It's Vidya, as Suresh Joshi used to say, Vidya Vinashna Marge. In his time, we were just 1 mile on that marg. Now we have traveled miles together, Vidya Vinash, because no one can laugh. No one can laugh at himself above all. If you say something, they become so aggressive. And there's self-love, autism. So this laughter that we see on the face of Navrachana University, the elite of Navrachana, laughing so nicely, is itself is an asset to the academic world of Gujarat.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question for you. So you have so nicely guided us on deciding the publication procedures, and it will lead to production of books. That is one part of it. And our interest is also that whatever books are produced are read by, at least to begin with, the students and the faculty at the university. And some initiatives that we have taken are regularly organizing conversations about books, and sometimes these are made part of the curriculum. So in addition to this, we would like to have suggestions from you. How do we improve upon the reading culture in general?
Yeah, exactly. These are the issues before you. You already thought about it. So as I told Javed, I would try to articulate his answers. And similarly, I would try to articulate answers that you already have in your mind. May I say that we can have a 3-layer publication program. Publication for schools, publications for university, college level, and publications for teachers and people at large, mature readers. If you have these three layers of publication, then you could plan the books in such a way that we start with the good schools all over Gujarat, like your own school, original school. And there are several other, CN Vidyavihar, several others. So they could be planned together, they could be bracketed together. I tried that hard at Gujarati Sahitya Parishad, but it has its own history. But we'll do it now at Baron Parekh Center at Fargo Gujarati Sabha and sort of join in or collaborate with you. So first, a group of excellent schools all over Gujarat and probably in Maharashtra. So that and books planned for those. Those books would not be, as I gently tried to distinguish between simplification and elucidation. So we should make it lucid rather than simple. So school level, lucid, attractive, and use all sorts of newer tools that are there online. They're great tools. So visual. So that is one. Then the college, university level texts. What is happening is all of us have our favorite theories, favorite hobby horses, and we lose in our enthusiasm and objectivity. If you are realist or Desiwad wala, you would have only Desiwala. If you are modernist, you have only modern. If you are kind of Bhakti wala, this is really bad. This is not how a society could be built. So at university and college level, we must see to it that the steering committee is formed under the leadership of someone like Bhai Parekh, someone who would have kind of authority, who curb our intentions of being enthused by our own hobby horses or our own theories. So the college level has to be like that. So our own preferences have to give way to the university, universal university. It's Sambhasha. And third, then to have some books which would present our own great traditions of Vimarsha, Prakasha and Vimarsha. Prakash these are two terms from Abhinavagupta. So Prakasha is objective manifestations and Vimarsha is subjective interpretations, Mimansa, hermeneutic. So third level has to be our contribution to the world and not our imports from the world. This is the main distinction. At the highest level, we have become import oriented. We read great books. I was the first one to read Derrida. No, I was the first one to read Michel Foucault. Oh, Derrida and Michel Foucault are passé. Now newer ones are there. So that kind of competition, very colonial competition of who is the best slave. That kind of colonial slave mentality is there. It has to be replaced by our contribution to the world, for which, of course, first of all, we have to know Sanskrit, Prakrit, Apabhransha, Persian, if not Arabic, certainly Persian is Persian. Persianologies are very much part of this, and Deshya. But Deshya not monopoly Deshya. Deshya has to interact with Sanskrit. Apabhransha, Prakrit and Sanskrit have always interacted with each other. It is our tradition. Shakuntala speaks in Prakrit and Dushyant speaks in Sanskrit, and they make fabulous love. There's a great love story in Sanskrit and Prakrit, but we don't even know. So, first of all, it's such a long way. I'm so happy that younger people are there. How many years we all have? So, this is young provost, young professors. I hope, and you're listening to me. Thank you for that. And but we must find our contribution to the world, like ancient and medieval India had. Modern India doesn't have it. It's inferior both to ancient and medieval India. Why? Because of the colonial mentality. We must get rid of it. And Desiwad is not the only way. So, and modernism is of course not the only way. But Indian modernism, Indian pathway to its own future, in short. And not only rural, as they said, rural and urban both. And there are areas between rural and urban in India. These two terms come from West. So the rural and urban divide is there. In India, there is hardly any divide. So you must find out. Read A.K. Ramanujan and his Ahamanpuram thing. I will not go into it, but when we meet at your university after COVID, in a conference, we will go into A.K. Ramanujan's way of understanding Indian way of thinking. He has an essay. So I must not go on, and if there are any other conversations amongst us, amongst you, I'm ready to listen to it.
Akash, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Good morning, sir. Sir,
Speaking?
actually, yeah, myself, Akash Gupta.
Akash, yes.
Yes, sir. So, sir, like one of my question was like the looking to the current situation, this COVID-19 situation, like we all are very much mentally disturbed. So, can you suggest some books so that it could be very much helpful for us to be calm and be mentally peaceful, so that we can pass out through this pandemic very smoothly and in a good way?
Absolutely right question, and that's what is really happening. They're all so shattered. Dear ones and near ones are passing away. When they go to the hospital or when they're isolated, we fear so much. And finally, we fear for ourselves. So on this pervading fear and helplessness, you're quite right. I will tell you what not to do. Please do not find a guru or a murshid or a saint. And if someone presents you as a saint or a kind of mullah or a guru, kindly say that you would prefer a death to COVID than submission to them. That is the first thing. Second thing is, don't submit to theories either, because theories are these gurus and these masters in camouflage. Be like Guru Datta, who had so many gurus. Each one could be played off against the other. So that is similarly have multiple routes and multiple theories, and try to find your own way. Let them be guides, but not the only guides. Appadipo bhava, as Buddha said. Finally, friend, I found in recent months, Albert Camus' The Plague to be my book. What quiet courage, what refusal to make grand statements, what detailed, meticulous, compassionate yet tearless description of situations and persons. I really revere that existentialist. But then find your own. When I read Marquez, 100 years of this Love in Time of Cholera, I was puzzled. I didn't quite understand Marquez. But that is my limitation. Maybe with your help, I will be able to understand what is love in times of cholera. But I know what is compassion in times of plague. And we have to find out our own way in this, our own current situation. Not be partisan. And certainly not participate in this useless conversation that is going on amongst our political elite. Senseless and merciless conversation. And so, all right, what do I say? So, find out your book. I think that is the best thing to do. Maybe just a haiku by some Japanese poet, Basho wandering, losing his way in cold Japanese landscape and saying that, oh, now I see a wooden statue of Buddha. Let me go there. It will make such a good firewood. Basho saying, this is tremendous. You know, he looks at Buddha and he's thankful. What is Buddha there? Buddha is there to give you some warmth in cold. It's not a bad thing. It is a great worship of Buddha. If you find a wooden idol, he's not confined to it. But he comes before you like a warm fire. We'll have to burn so many of our idols. I'm not referring only to one religion. Those who oppose idolatry are the greatest idol worshippers. And their dead wood is there in them, in whatever religion. So I'm not kind of, masochist, one of those fashionable masochists of our literatures. I'm not a masochist, nor a sadist. I love life, as our dear friend says, love. I like her spirit, but she has to sort of find much more greater scholarship. I'm referring to our second author. Okay. I think I'm speaking too much.
Yes,
Let
Seema
me
ma'am.
listen to
Professor Sitanshu, what a privilege and a wonderful wonderful to hear you in the midst of so much of happening around us. There are two things that I would like to sort of to reference to your thing about binaries, where we in India don't really have a binary between urban and rural. And the unfortunate thing is that our governance and our development programs are completely based on such binaries. And that is why last year, when the migration pain that we saw, when people were leaving, that's exactly why these things happen. So this binary has to be broken, not just at scholarly level, but also at level of development and governance, because we are creating this binary. We don't allow people from villages, we treat them like just migrant labor, and as a result of that, they live in inhuman conditions. That's one thing, that because of this intense binary that has governed us since the British time, we need to reclaim our space of, like you said, rightly said, A.K. Ramanujan, where there is a seamless flow between the village and the city, and vice versa. You see, so we all belong to our villages and to the cities at the same time. You can't forget your roots just like that. And hence we end up being completely traumatized in a city because we are unable to let go of our roots, our relatives, our past, our traditions, and our cultures. So you see, we don't know which to adapt to. Second point that you made about our own contributions to scholarly traditions. In my own experience at conferences of semiotics in international forums, I have felt that very, very deeply, because the Chinese scholars, they present their traditions with so much pride, or the Japanese scholars, whereas there is absolutely, and I keep telling my colleagues in these forums that, India has contributed immensely to theories of signification, but we need to own these theories. We need to present these theories. We need to collate all this material, and put it together as a very important semiotic contribution to understanding the world around us. So, I mean, I just, thought that.
Absolutely, most enlightening. Absolutely, that's it. So, so let us understand the fear that is driving India towards autistic, going to the safe past. What is the fear? The fear is that, look, we are all together And then Pakistan was created. We liberated Bangladesh, and later on some general took made it Islamic State. What is happening in Kashmir? Why is it happening? So what we need to do, two things. One, think of our whole neighborhood.
Yes.
From the Arab countries to Indonesia and Malaysia. Because what is happening all around us cannot be ignored. In Jain tradition, it is said there are some people in Gujarati, that means they keep their own children safe, but somebody else's son should be made a monk.
Yes.
So that kind of dishonesty is sensed by the common people in Indian intellectuals. These Indian intellectuals wouldn't mind selling India if they can have that moment of glory by saying that, oh, let's be liberal, let's be liberal. How do we be liberal? Let us first of all survive, then we can be liberal. That is the issue. And I have never shirked from that stand. That's why people, you should hear some of the abuses that I often have to ask are whispered about me. I know that jolly well, because I would not budge from that stand. That whole of South Asia and whole of Middle East and Far East is one semiotic field.
Yes.
And meaning. So let's be honest about it. Secondly, there are great Muslim minds. There are great Christian minds, Indian Christians, Indian Muslims. So who's Sarhad Gandhi, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan? Who was he? He was not a Jain or a Buddhist or a Hindu. He was so we must bring that together and liberal Muslim community. Because Hindu community was also not liberal. In 18th century, Hindu community was very different. But it was hard work of 19th century reformers, Vivekananda and others, and then Gandhi.
Yes.
So similar movement has to be generated and it's a hard task. It's long. So that is two things in response to, and I absolutely celebrate what you say and fully stand by you and look forward to a time when we could meet physically in Ahmedabad or Vadodara.
Yes.
And follow this up. But two things. Don't go on advising India that it should become liberal. India wants to be liberal, but doesn't want to be to be destroyed. So think and have a powerful Christian, Muslim, secular Indian voice telling all the neighbors that you also now change. We'll change. Let's change together. And then have a major Indo-Muslim, Indo-Christian, Indo-Parsi voice. I mean, after this Parsi, they were writing in Gujarati, they stopped writing in Gujarati.
Yes.
So in Farbus Gujarati, Samat Rahmasik, I'm getting all the Parsis, contemporary Parsis to write for us. We do a little bit.
Oh, yes, that's so important. Yes, Indo-Parsi. Thank you so much. It was it's so enlightening I really hope we have more conversations, if not in person, at least on Zoom. So thank you, Vandana ji and Dr. Khatri for organizing this. I mean, it was such a treat to listen to Professor Sitanshu and, and to be a part of this function. Sincerely appreciate.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being here. It is our pleasure that you are here with us. Yeah. Any more questions we have? Yeah. So if there are no more questions, Ananya, you can take up.
We close the question answer session now. As the event comes to an end, may I request Dr. Javed Khatri, Assistant Professor at Navratna University and a member of Center for Education, Innovation and Research to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ananya. Let me begin with a motto of our University Grant Commission, which says, Jnana Vignan Vimukti, knowledge liberates. And this particular occasion taking place on the birth anniversary of the great Rabindranath Tagore, who popularly remembered today as with a song Ekla Chalo Re. But when it comes to this journey of knowledge, it is not possible to walk alone and achieve better destinations. So I have this session, which is basically known as Thanksgiving session. Basically, what I want to talk about the people who have actually helped us a lot in this process of coming out with these two books. Okay. So let me begin with these common names. Okay. We have Dr. Sujata Patil, who helped us in every occasion when we felt any confusion related with copyright issue or ISBN, and she is always there to help us out. So thank you very much, Sujata ma'am. Then we have Dr. Meghna Vyas, our librarian and member of Center for Education, Innovation and Research. She did all these paperwork and online applications for ISBN numbers, and we have received those numbers in the right time that we could manage this thing. It would be impossible without Meghna ma'am's support. Our assistant professor, Professor Pullak Sanpui, who created the design for the cover pages, and he did it. He himself is a poet. He writes in Bengali, and he in fact he told me that he actually enjoyed doing these cover pages because it was something that was so much relatable for him. So that was just an interesting, very very efficient kind of contribution to these books. Like they won't appear as good as they do now without Pulak's design. And when Pulak gave us these designs, we had a question that how to put it back into PDF or into the book form. Then our very own student Komal Chauhan came to rescue. See, both these books are basically designed by her. Okay. We have given her the Word files and PDFs and pictures, and she is doing day and night the work, and the final copies that we are seeing today. That's basically the hard work of Komal. Thank you so much, Komal, for this work. And we look forward to your uh, technical skills for future as well. Then coming to the first book, we would like to thank Aarti ma'am for giving us this opportunity, for giving the center this opportunity that we work with you and we come out with these kind of publication. Personally speaking, I have learned a lot in this process, especially about Rabindranath Tagore. I've read a lot on by Tagore, on Tagore, Tagore as a translator, Tagore as a poet, Tagore on poetry. So that was a kind of journey that is enriching for us, and we thank a lot to Aarti ma'am for giving us this opportunity. And in this book there are sketches which are done by Nisha Parekh, and we are thankful to her, and she has done an amazing work combining the theme and the ideas and the sketches in one particular uh, what we call synchronicity. The second book, Vichar Vimars, uh, before I take the names of the contributors, I would like to first apologize all of them because we have pressed them like anything. We have been asking them to write, to edit, to resend. Okay. So first of all, on behalf of the center, I apologize to all the contributors. And second, thank you very much for giving your so precious ideas in this written form and made this book possible. We have Professor Sitanshu Yashash Chandra, who is not just a contributor for this book, but who is a guide for us to lead into this journey. His address in Vichar Vimers 2019 that gave us the confidence that we could do this work, and his subsequent support throughout this process has helped us achieving this goal. We had Professor Sachin Ketkar. He couldn't join us today. And Dr. Seema Khanwalkar, thank you, ma'am, for being here. And thank you very much for your valuable interview. It will definitely help our semiotic students, plus anyone who is interested in meaning making process. Then we had Dr. Vishal Badani. He couldn't join us. He had messaged me that he has another program, so he won't be able to make it. He presented an interesting paper on translation, and he uh, proposed a new idea of using images while translating the text from one language to another, so that the text becomes more comprehensible for the readers. Amrit Deshmukh, again, he had a program, so he couldn't join. And Neha Bahuguna, who is a storyteller, and she has also provided an interview. So I thank all these invited contributors uh, who has made this book a valuable collection of talks. Then we have the in-house faculty members, Dr. Rachna Tomar, who is also a member of Center for Education Innovation Research, Dr. Neha Sarvate, Dr. Rahul Parekh, and Professor Dharti Parekh. All of them have presented reflections on uh, the book of their choice. And last, but the most important participants, contributors of this book and this entire event are students. We had 4 students who contributed in the book. Pratima Talwar, who is our B.Ed student, Nainil Patel, who is mechanical engineering student, Devanshu Chattopadhyay, and Keaton Limos, who is a journalism student from Navratna University. All of them have written short pieces, their reflections on some specific books. And in fact, the basic idea of such program was to give platform and give confidence to these students so that they can express themselves. Okay. So we have a kind of stalwart, academic stalwart like uh, Professor Sitanshu Chandra, and we have a novice like me or Pratima or Keaton. All of us are writing together, looking at the same reality differently, and trying to articulate ourselves in different diction and different types of fiction. So that's what this particular book is, the conversations about all these different issues. And this book, both these books would not have been possible without uh, all these contributors, plus the other members whose names are not yet spoken from Center for Education Innovation Research. For example, Dr. Pallavi Galsai, Dr. Archana Tomar, who have been constant support for us, though like they haven't been contributing or they are not into the active committee of book formation or publication, but they have been constant support and they have been there whenever we require them. So I thank all these members of Center for Education Innovation Research, and we look forward to more such occasions, more such coordinations to come up with something better, something that the society, the academic forum expects from us. And coming to today's event, I am deeply grateful to Dr. Dinesh Panchal. He is our tech support, without whom most of our online programs are almost impossible. He manages the things quite efficiently. Thank you so much, Dinesh sir. I would also like to thank our communication team, Animesh sir, Shilpa ma'am, Rushikesh, who on a very short notice creates the creative for this program, and they broadcast it in such a short span of time. So we are very much thankful to all the entire team that made this particular occasion possible. And last but not least, our registrar sir and our provost sir, who has been constant guiding force, constant support for the entire projects that we have done. Their confidence in us made this thing possible. It was like without their guidance, without their support and confidence in us, I don't think this project would have come out the way it is. So I'm deeply thankful to all the people involved. And Ananya, thank you very much. And now it's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you all the invited guests, dignitaries, and attendees for the time and being with us for this event. Have a pleasant day ahead.
Thank you, Anand.